Hi, this is Frank Schaeffer. I am an author and a commentator. And I want to thank my friend John and the others at Christians for Kamala Harris for the opportunity to speak a little bit about some things that maybe my age, for once, gives me an advantage to understand. I celebrated my 72nd birthday. And I want to tell people who think that Christians have always been right-wing Republican thugs that that's not the case. Let me tell you one little story that I'll share with you from my own experience. Back when my father, Francis Schaeffer, and I were highly involved in the anti abortion movement in the 1970s and 80s, that unfortunately we helped get going with the film series, Whatever Happened to the Human Race, and the book and the national tour with C. Everett Koop, the Surgeon General under Ronald Reagan, were responsible for at that time. Our big fight wasn't with the quote secular humanists or the National Organization of Women or Planned Parenthood. It was with Christian leaders, real Christian leaders, like the Reverend Billy Graham or the editorial board of Christianity Today magazine, or the president of the Southern Baptist Convention at the time, who was also the pastor of First Baptist in Dallas. Our fight was with them because they would not join our cause. Why? Well, one afternoon when my dad was undergoing chemotherapy treatments at Mayo Clinic for his cancer that he died of in 1984, we visited with the Reverend Billy Graham, and he was in the Methodist hospital that the week before my dad and I had picketed because they did abortions, and dad stayed in St. Mary's Hospital across the street because he said, well, they're Catholic and so they don't do abortions and we don't agree with their theology, but at least they're correct on this issue. Well, we crossed the street to meet with the Reverend Billy Graham, the evangelist, to beg him to join our anti abortion cause. And he refused because he said, my role as a minister of the gospel is to preach the love of Jesus, not to condemn people. And why would I single women out for special attention when all of us fall short on so many levels? In other words, he had the Christian message. Now, I mention that because everybody assumes that somehow it's normal that white evangelical Christians support Donald Trump and J.D. Vance. Well, it's not normal. Billy Graham would not have, even though his son Franklin has betrayed his parental heritage and become this hard-assed activist on the far right. In fact, Franklin Graham went so far as to put a target on the back, almost literally, of the 10 Republicans in Congress who voted to impeach Donald Trump against him, and said that they were traitors. He actually used that term for which people can be executed. And of course, that's serious when you are talking to a mob of people who show up a little while later on the Capitol steps with a noose ready to hang the vice president, who's also a Christian. So, what I want to say today is that Christians can stand up for what is right in this next election. And we can stand for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, who has been accused of being a liberal because he provided free food for children in schools. He's accused of being a liberal because he provided sanitary products for high schoolers who couldn't finish high school because they couldn't afford the products and were staying home out of shame because they couldn't come to high school. He viewed his role as being a leader that helped people. Wow, isn't that an idea? Sounds weirdly Christ-like to me. And when Kamala Harris says that she will stand up for women and for our privacy rights and for our rights to be the kind of Americans that, by the way, just feel these incredible intergenerational and multicultural and multiracial teams to the Olympics and won because of the strength of our diversity, that's the world she represents, the strength of our diversity, the strength of our unity. And the Republicans represent a kind of a backward misogyny that even back in the 1970s, Billy Graham wouldn't go for. Let's go back to the religion of Billy Graham, if you want to put it that way, and not his son Franklin, who is on the side of these fascist oligarchs, wading in to change our country and strip it of its democracy, to roll it into some sort of theocracy. That's not the vision of Christianity. That's not the vision of some of the people who made Christianity strong in America, like Billy Graham, my family friend. That's the vision of people who fundamentally, like Donald Trump, are at heart anti-Christian. My name is Frank Schaeffer.